Once again, this is Otherworldly Fundraising. Our fundraising efforts are benefiting one simple wish. Link to donate is located within the description below. Drum roll, please. It's 7 o'clock. You know what that means. It's the Snyderverse hour. And hey, I came prepared for this. I'm wearing the right suit. Please welcome a best-selling writer and the gentleman and a scholar who is more than happy to talk about all the stuff that went on behind those curtains, that went on behind closed doors, that we haven't been privy to during the DC Cinematic Universe era led by Zack Snyder. Please welcome Daryn Kirscht to the stage. Daryn, welcome. How are you, good sir?
Thank you for having me. Doing well. How are you?
Oh, I couldn't be better. I'm doing super, if you know what I'm saying.
So same here.
Yeah, baby, there it is. That's what I thought, brother.
Yep.
Yeah, Superman's number one. So for those of you just joining us, if you have any questions for Daryn or have any questions about what we're going to be doing during the course of this weekend, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. Our producer is going to be monitoring it as we go throughout the course of this weekend's programming. And don't forget to like and share this with all of your closest friends because they're going to like the way they look after watching or listening to this. Gee willikers, I guarantee it. And by the way, Sandra O chimes in. She says, thanks for that segment you guys just did. It was a great discussion. I foster cats, so every night is busy, and I love this event. Well, thank you, Sandra O, for being here. We appreciate that. We really, really do. So, excuse me, goodness gracious, so much is going on, so little time. Daryn, I'm going to ask you something here. What were some of your favorite books or writers growing up for you?
Oh, that's a great question. For me, growing up, I was a big sports nut, so I read a lot of Matt Christopher books, and those ones were really near and dear to my heart. But I mean, I read all kinds of books. I mean, I read all kinds of nonfiction books. I read series like The Boxcar Children, um, pretty much like Harry Potter, you name it. I read all the big major series. I like to read as a kid, and like right now, I also work in education, so that's part of me giving back as well. It had that kind of profound effect on me, so it's kind of carried over into my adult life as well.
Wow. That's awesome. Man, I remember Boxcar Children. I remember going to my Scholastic book fairs when we were in school. Yeah. Seeing
Yeah.
those books across the shelves. You remember those days, man? You had to pick out the catalog and circle the ones you want your parents to buy for you, and half of them you wouldn't even read.
Yep. Yep.
Those are some good times, man. Good times. So, when did you start reading comic books? When did that start?
Yeah. So honestly, I didn't start reading comic books till I was older. I mean, I spent a lot of my time as a kid kind of watching like for example, Batman the animated series, Superman the animated series, stuff like that, and even someone like the Christopher Reeve Superman movies and like Batman Forever. I watched that one over and over as a kid. So I watched stuff more than I read, I would say back then in terms of comic books. But as I got older, then I started to kind of dive into that world more, and just it kind of made it more of a complete experience at that point.
Nice list there. I feel like you and I were in the same era because you're mentioning a lot of the names that I grew up watching as
Yeah.
well. Oh man, you gotta love the '90s. They were excellent. So that's really good stuff. And what would you say were some of your? And I'm just curious. Any favorite comic book based outside of the TV series you mentioned? Any favorite comic book based movies that stand out to you?
Just in general, over like growing up, or
Well, yeah, whether it's growing up, past, present, either one.
yeah, that's so obviously, of course, the Snyderverse, right? I mean, that was kind of important to me. I was a big fan of that. But I mean, Batman and Superman have always been my two favorite characters, and seeing them evolve and transform over the years on screen has been really fascinating. Like I mentioned, I grew up with the Christopher Reeve Superman movies. Michael Keaton Batman, Val Kilmer Batman, even the Batman and Robin. I watched that as a kid. I don't think I could watch that now, but I did back then, I guess. But no, I mean, I would say ones that are really important to me. I mean, yeah, I mean, I would say the DC ones have always been near and dear to my heart, and that's kind of what's always resonated with me. So, like, in more recently, I would say Man of Steel, uh, BVS, and Zack Snyder's Justice League. So,
Rock on, man. Rock on. And we have some people here in the chat. They are chiming in. Chris Marie says, I remember, what was it? Matt Christopher, I think, was a series of books that she read when she was a child, something like that. That name
Hmm.
sounds vaguely, I think I heard that before, vaguely familiar. Can't remember. Might have to Google that later. She goes on to say, Batman Forever was the second movie I ever saw more than once in the theater back in 1995.
Nice.
Wow, I remember watching that on VHS as a kid. Good lord, we're dating ourselves, but hey, age
Yeah.
is a bloody number. So, this book that you wrote discussing the Snyderverse, talk us through the process. What was it like putting that together?
Yeah. So back when I was first kind of coming up with this idea, it was back, after this was after everything that happened with uh Batman v Superman and then with Justice League, right? And how that version came out in theaters and it's, infamously called Justice League because Joss Whedon was the one who helmed everything with that cut of the movie. And then, you know, of course, a lot of fans were like, "That's not the movie they promised us." And there's this whole other movie sitting out there that's, shot and already mostly kind of done. You know, depending upon which version you're talking about, whether that's the 3 hour cut or the 4 hour cut. So in the LRs, the fandom was really, pushing creative ways of, you know, getting Warner Brothers on board with releasing Zack's version of Justice League, right? And I was so fascinated with like how all the amazing things that were happening with, of course there were a lot of people seem to, and maybe it's a good time to talk about this too. When it comes to the fandom, a lot of people on the outside kind of characterize and summarize the fandom by the negative aspect of it, by the people who chose the negative way of going about it and like harassing people online. When in actuality, it's kind of like I wish people wouldn't judge the whole fandom just by those people because it's so much more than that, and it's so much more beautiful than that. What we've done, and we've raised over $1 million now for American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, which is so incredible. And yes, and of course we're also in this for Zach and Debbie and their movie, and and it just so back then there was a lot of really cool things happening. Like the Nerd Queens had Justice Con, and that was also helping raise funds for AFSP, and had panels from people in the movie and Zach himself. So that was really cool. And there's banners being flown over like Burbank and with the release a Snyder Cut, right? Hashtag release Snyder Cut on there. So there was a lot of cool things happening, billboards, and I wanted to kind of I wanted to lend what I did. I wanted to help contribute to that, right, in a positive way. And I just for a while I didn't really know how, but at the time I was a writer for a couple different entertainment websites, and it just kind of dawned on me. I always wrote longer form articles. Like I just wanted to keep going and going, right? I just you get into the weeds and you kind of nerd out. But I just realized after a while, I was like, I'm a writer. Maybe I should just try this and see what happens. Worst case scenario, I just toss it aside and call it a day. I'm still a fan, but I just kind of viewed it as a long article and just kind of start at the beginning and just kind of roll right on through, mostly chronological. And yeah, I would say that was the biggest thing, and the reasoning behind it was wanting to, and just also like there's so many people out there that when they think of the Snyderverse, right, and that I think varies too on what is the Snyderverse is probably the better question. But when it comes to that, people kind of view it as like this. They have there's these rumors or this. Yep. There's a cover of the book. Yep. Amazing cover design, by the way. And when it comes to the Snyderverse, a lot of people have this negative opinion, or like they have this sense of what they think it is without really knowing what it is. And a lot of rumors and stuff that wasn't true was being said about it. And this was my way of like, hey, this is all the facts. Like it's a neutral perspective throughout the book, and I just kind of laid everything out there and kind of let people read what the truth is and let them feel about it how they may.
That's really, and thank you for sharing that with us. Do greatly appreciate it. Once again, we're here with Daryn Kirscht here on the Otherworldly Fundraising event, talking about this. This is the Snyderverse Hour for this course of programming. If you're just joining us, don't forget to like and share this with everyone you know. If you have any questions for Daryn during the course of this hour, please let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. We'd be more than happy to take those from you as they come in, respectively. And I thank you for sharing that story of how this came about, because I saw a video. I don't know if you're familiar with this or not, but there was this video circling around, including the hashtag with, release the Snyder Cut, all that stuff. It was a man who, I think he was in Texas, and he made
Hmm.
a video of himself talking about how the movies impacted his life as a father and how he and his daughter watched it. And then he uh, got a whole bunch of clips of other people from around the world sharing their love of the first two films that had come out up to that point, with it being Man of Steel and Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. And when I was watching that video, I thought, because let's face it, both films are very divisive amongst fans and critics. They very much are. But to see that video, and I wish I remembered who put it together, and I wish I
I,
remember
I- and
who
it,
it was,
yes,
because I
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think I do know who that is. By the way,
oh, okay, all right, I
it's
wasn't sure, but
yeah, it's my buddy John Aaron Garza.
I think
He's
yeah.
yeah.
It may okay, all right, then it's probably who I'm thinking of. So when I watched that video, I started to cry at the end of it, because I realized, okay, I'm not. I mean, I knew I had a few friends of mine, not a lot, but I had a few that were defending the quality that is Man of Steel. I think it's a criminally underrated film, 100%. And there are elements of BVS for me that work. There were certain elements of that didn't. I mean, of course, the director's cut is much better than the theatrical cut that we got in theaters, respectively, of BVS. And I realized, wow, these films really do make an impact. Whether the critics or audiences like them or not, like, there are fans out there that will back up what the director was trying to do and the vision that he had for this, what was at the time a fledgling DC cinematic universe. And that really hit me. I was like, man, I thought I was one of the few people who actually liked this movie. But Man of Steel, there's a lot of defenders out there. There's actually defenders for BVS, and granted, BVS is a good film. It's just that the casting of Jesse Eisenberg was terrible. But
Hmm.
you know, you know what I mean? Like, there are defenders. So I really appreciated that in that video. That video actually made me tear up, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, isn't it crazy how the impact that you know a movie can have, such a profound impact can have on your life, and how you experience the world and how it reflects that.
Yeah, for sure. And some people are chiming in here in the chat. Krista Marie says it's always the people who make the most amount of noise who get the attention with regards to releasing the Snyder Cut, because, man, that hashtag went around forever. But for good reason, though. I'm not saying it was a bad thing. Then she goes on to say, my sidekick, known as Lauren, would like to know Darren's thoughts on the Adam West Batman era. What are your thoughts, Darren?
Very fun to watch. I obviously it's very campy and very goofy and of its time, right? Like that wouldn't happen today, but I'm glad it exists.
There you go. That helps. I don't know. For me, I'm just nothing against Adam West and Burt Ward, but hashtag not my Batman. Sorry.
It's fair.
I can't. I watched it. I watched the movie. Tried to watch an episode or two with the Bing Pang Pow, and I'm just like, no.
Yeah. I mean, I've always enjoyed the darker take on Batman.
Yeah. Thank you, Tim Burton. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. You're my number one guy. Anyway,
Yep.
sorry, I can quote that movie all day long. I don't know if you can. Steph L chimes in. Steph says, Darren and Ryan, do you have a favorite era of the character known as Superman? What about you, Darren?
A favorite era.
Of Superman. What do you think?
I don't know if I have a favorite. You know, I enjoy multiple eras so much that I don't know if I could pick just one to be a favorite. What about you?
You know, I've grown up with, I mean, you, me, and everyone else who's been around for a long time, we've grown up with a lot of different eras of this character because he's been featured in so many different forms of media, right? If we're talking live action, I got to go with Henry Cavill. He got the shorter end of the straw. He should have had his own trilogy. He should have had his own sixology, which stands for 6 movies, not some dirty thoughts. 6 movies, because Henry Cavill loves that character. He knew how to do it. He read the comics. He did his research. He did his like, he wanted to put his own stamp on it, and unfortunately, he didn't really get a chance to do that. So for me, my favorite live action iteration is Henry Cavill's Man of Steel, because, like I said, criminally underrated film, and for me, I think it's my favorite comic movie of all time, Darren.
That's so cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I completely understand where you're coming from. I'm such a huge fan of Henry Cavill, the man and the actor, and yeah, I do agree. I really wish he would have gotten another solo movie, and and to be able to have somewhat of a say in what he wants to do, taking the character moving forward. That's why I think everyone was so excited when he was in Black Adam, right? Spoiler alert if you haven't seen Black Adam, but I mean they kind of spoiled it themselves. Like he's in the movie and he returns and he was so excited. He just seemed so genuinely excited to be back. And then they were announcing they were going to do, another movie with him. And it just sounded like he was finally going to get his opportunity to come back to the character. Because before that, he hadn't been in the role since literally filming Justice League, and that had been what 5-6 years by that point. And then obviously what ended up happening was that was kind of the end of it. Then after they told him, yes, you can tell the world that you're back, then it's like, now tell them you're not back, so it's very unfortunate.
Yeah, that's a valid point. And, we wish Henry the best with everything moving forward. He's got projects lined up like crazy, so he's going to be fine. But it does hurt right here that he's not going to.
Well, what hurts for me too?
Yeah.
Oh, we know what's always hurt is not getting the Ben Affleck Batman movie.
Man. Yeah, because at one point, that actor was saying, I'm going to write, produce, star, direct the whole thing. And I'm thinking, whoa, like if he treats this like a Gone Baby Gone or like The Town kind of thing, like that could have been rad. Like
Absolutely.
that could have been. I mean, unless you want to make the movie a 2-hour fight scene in a warehouse where he's breaking everybody's back and arm and whatever else he was doing in that. Remember the warehouse sequence in BVS?
Oh,
Like
of
that.
course.
If he's just doing that for 2 hours, I'm okay with that. I mean, he
Yeah, I
owned
mean,
it, right? I mean,
yeah,
and
I mean,
Jeremy
just every
Irons
yeah,
as Alfred. Oh, Uncle Scar as Alfred, Daryn.
perfect casting,
I mean,
perfect casting.
come on, come
Yeah,
on.
Joe Manganiello as Deathstroke is going to be,
Oh,
which is a very different kind of villain for Batman, and everything that was, I wrote a whole chapter about it in my book, which is right here. What it's called, The Batman, and because that was what it was originally called before that morphed into the Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson version. And I wrote all about it in my book, everything that was kind of said about it, what the story was going to be about, all the actors that were going to be in it, and they were talking about having have it somewhat take place in Arkham Asylum and the Rogues Gallery and I mean it sounded like it was going to be amazing, and it's unfortunate that it never happened.
yeah. Man, things that could have been. Well, one of the things I did like about, and this is available, you can see this on stream or wherever. The What was it? Zack Snyder's Justice League had the nightmare. The
Yes.
what if we were on Apocalypse and Darkseid was trying to kill us all, and Batman had to work with his worst enemies, and he had to team up with the last surviving members of the League. And I'm thinking, ooh, this is dark. I like it. Let's go
Yeah.
there. Let's see. Like he had to work with the Joker. He had to work with Death. Like he had to work with all these characters that he doesn't really like. He doesn't like them, and for good reason. But they had to work together. That nightmare sequence or that epilogue, I think it was called.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh, it was only like 5 minutes. I was like, "Where's that 2-hour movie? I'll watch that."
Well, that was supposed to be the next few movies, but
Man, mm,
yeah.
I mean, oh, things we could have gotten. It's killing me. It's killing me. Still does to this day. I would have liked. I mean, granted, there's a lot of things we could have seen. There's a lot of things we should have been able to see. I would have liked to have seen other characters from DC Comics make an appearance in a film that haven't been present before, right? Because there's so many members of the Justice League as well as Justice League Unlimited. Like, there are so many characters you could have picked from.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that was going to be part of that plan. Like the Green Lanterns were going to be brought in with the future movies. And obviously, we see Martian Manhunter in Zack's Justice League. So there was definitely, I think, an effort to expand and explore more of that as well.
For sure, for sure. And my goodness, all the things that could have been. And one, but hey, what isn't something that wish we could have been, what's happening right now is Otherworldly Fundraising right here. And you are in the presence of greatness with that, because we are here with Daryn Kirscht here on the show. Don't forget to like and share this with everyone you know. If you have any questions for Daryn, let us know in the comments, let us know in the chat. All our fundraising efforts are going towards one simple wish that provide resources to children within the foster care system. So check out the website, check out the link to donate. It's located within the description below. Every donation you make, including $10 or over, you're going to be entered into a sweepstakes to win incredible prizes that have been put together by the people who are working tirelessly behind the scenes to help put this event together. So definitely check that out. It has been a great conversation with Daryn here thus far. All the things that could have, it's basically we're singing the song shoulda, coulda, woulda, you know, I'm just throwing
Yep.
that out there. I don't know if anyone remembers that song. Was that even a song? I don't know. I heard it in some movie one time. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I'm just curious, though, Daryn, if I know that we leave these things normally to people who have the experience in the field, right? We leave it to the writers, the producers, the directors, and all that. But if you were involved in the creativity of this, if you were part of the creative team over there and the DC Cinematic Universe was moving forward with Zack Snyder being a huge part of it, after the events of what is known as Zack Snyder's Justice League that came out not too long ago, by the way, what would you have done if you were sitting in the creative chair? Where would you have liked to have seen the story go outside of, the two-parter, or maybe outside of Zack Snyder's Justice League? Where would you like to have seen?
Well, I mean, we kind of touched on a solo movie for Superman and Batman, like a Man of Steel 2 and a Batfleck movie, right? I mean, that was, I mean, a big draw. I think that would be something that'd be very exciting. So I definitely would have explored those options and, you know, back the dump truck of gold up to Ben Affleck's house and say, "Please do this. You can have all the creative control you want. I promise." And I would have definitely also loved to have seen Ray Fisher get a cyborg movie. I think it's something that would have been very relevant and topical, and I feel like he did I mean, he did such an amazing job in Zack's cut of Justice League that with that character, and you could tell he was so passionate about it and had such a good experience with it, with Zack's version of Justice League, I should say, that I think it would have been really awesome to see him be able to, branch off on his own and be able to have a story of his own to tell. And I'm not well versed with like Cyborg in the comics, so I wouldn't be able to tell you about that. But maybe that's a way to explore Teen Titans in the Snyderverse. I don't know, but I think that would have been really awesome to see. I know Zach also mentioned this idea of having like an Atom movie that takes place in China with Ryan Zeng, who was in Zach's movie. So I think that would have been really interesting as well to see. So that's definitely some of the things that kind of first come to mind. Obviously, I would also love to see the Ayer cut of Suicide Squad. I think we are long past due for getting that version out there to see, and I think David Ayer would agree with you on that because he talks a lot about on uh, X, formerly known as Twitter. So yeah, that's kind of where I would start really, and I would really start there and um, because I mean, you look at like the Flash and Aquaman and Wonder Woman have all had multiple movies, a movie or multiple movies by this point, and I think when it comes to the Nightmare future, it's kind of a saga in terms of like it's all. I mean, it was kind of described at first as like Harry Potter, where it's like it wasn't really meant to be like Marvel where they have 20 movies in 10 years, right? Like it wasn't meant to be like that. It was meant to be like five main films with a few spin-offs here and there, so that way you don't get too off track from the main storyline. So I feel like that would have been probably the best. That's probably what I would have done. Would it have worked? Who knows? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. You never know if something's going to work until it comes out and you get a response to it, and
Yeah,
you get the feedback and all that. For me, I mean, Henry, my boy, I want you to have your own trilogy. I wouldn't mind seeing the solo Batman film, which you discussed a few times here already during the course of this program. I would like to have seen some other characters get some time in the sun. I mean, I know he shows up in the Black Adam film, but Doctor Fate, I think, would have been a cool thing to play with
absolutely.
within the DC cinematic universe, and not just his appearances in what was known as the Black Adam movie. I haven't seen the newer stuff that's come out, whether it be Black Adam or what was it, Blue Beetle, I think just came out, and you have some other films that have come out recently. I haven't seen all of them yet. I do plan on sitting down and watching them eventually because I am curious. Curiosity, it may have killed the cat, but it's not going to kill me. At least I don't think so. Just saying.
Hope not.
So, no, hope not. Absolutely not. So, have you caught up with the stuff that they're doing now? And also, what are your feelings about James Gunn and Peter Safran, those two dudes, walking in and taking over the DC Cinematic Universe as well as they're basically the new era and rebooting it from scratch? What do you think about that?
That's a good question. So I'm like you, I have not 100% caught up with all of the movies. I haven't seen Blue Beetle. I have Shazam 2, but I haven't seen it yet. So I mean, I'm still trying to catch up with that. And in terms of the future of where these movies are going, in terms of like I think personally it's going to be a reboot. I think it's going to be a completely clean slate. That way they can cast whoever they want in those roles and kind of take them in whatever way they want to go with them. But I mean, I'm trying to stay neutral and trying to wait until I see a photo, a trailer, before I kind of start to get a better feel for what they're doing. Because right now it's so early. I mean, yeah, sure, they've announced a bunch of movies and they've cast a few people, but I'm not gonna pretend. I mean, I'm obviously not over the moon excited about it right now because I mean, yes, I do understand like the idea of wanting to start fresh and have a creative vision that's, you know, very authentic to the filmmaker that's doing it, right? Which is James Gunn, which he's proven to be successful with. Guardians of the Galaxy, that's some of the best Marvel movies that's been out there. Some of the most well received. So he's obviously a talented filmmaker. Not for everybody though, and I wouldn't say I'm his biggest fan, but I recognize that there's definitely like the appeal is definitely there. I don't really know. I'm not sure how he would handle Superman, but again, I mean, just like how people were, so what I guess the upset maybe might be an understatement when they announced Ben Affleck as Batman and overreacted to it, and when they cast Jesse Eisenberg and Gal Gadot, everybody was freaking out, like, what are they doing? And then when you actually see a trailer, you're like, oh, okay, like, yeah, she looks great as Wonder Woman. I buy it now. Yeah, Ben Affleck actually looks kind of cool as Batman. I can kind of buy into this now. So I feel like I'll wait and see how they go about telling their story and go from there.
Yeah, I mean, that's really all we can do is wait and see what happens. And it's kind of you and I are kind of on the same playing field. I'm not the biggest James Gunn fan, not really a fan of his work, really particularly, but it's a new era. They're going to start out from scratch. Going to start from the very beginning. It's fine. They've already cast their Superman, their Lois Lane. They've cast Green Lantern and a few other DC characters. So looking forward to seeing how that goes. I'm curious. The trailer, that's what's gonna, yeah, that's what's gonna get me even more curious. The trailer is gonna tell us something.
Oh
Definitely
yeah.
is.
Oh yeah.
So look forward to seeing what happens with that. And on the flip side of it, though, they do have the positive for them with this new era that they're trying to assemble over there at the DC Cinematic Universe. They did put together a new young up and coming actors to play Superman and Lois Lane, which is a good thing because I do want to see some new, fresh, somewhat unknown talent get their shot at stardom, just like Henry did. Not a lot of people knew who Henry was unless you watched The Tudors, but I had no idea who Henry was. I had no idea. And then he shows up in this movie and he blows my mind. So thank you, Henry Cavill. By the way, Henry Cavill, you're the man. Stephen Fisher has a question for you here. Stephen Fisher chimes in. He says, so I've heard rumors of people hoping to get WB to sell the Snyderverse rights to some place like Netflix to continue on with it. Is that something you've heard? And do you think you'll ever see that happen, Daryn?
I've seen the fan demand for that online. I have not heard anything about it actually coming to any kind of fruition. And I have a hard time seeing that happen. I think logistically that would be very tough to pull off because, obviously Warner Brothers has the rights and obviously they're moving forward with different versions of the characters. And I don't know. I think there's some legal hurdles to make that happen. Would I love to see it happen? Of course. Zach loves working at Netflix. Really excited for Rebel Moon. So, and he just seems so happy there. It's a very good relationship they have going on there. So, I mean, of course, I would like to see that. Do I think it's going to happen? Probably not, just because it seems like it would be tough to pull off. But never say never, you know?
Yeah, that's gonna be a challenge because that's like trying to put an Avengers versus Justice League movie together. It's never gonna happen.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's never. I would love. I mean, we all 7 billion people on, on this earth would like to see it happen, but it's not. It's like that film we used to watch, some years ago. Do you remember this line? Stop trying to make it happen. It's never gonna happen, Gretchen. Um, that's a movie from the 2000s. If you don't know what I'm talking.
Which one
Stop
is
trying to make.
that?
Oh, I was saying it was basically me saying stop trying to make the word fetch happen. It's never gonna happen, Gretchen.
Gotcha.
That's from, yeah, Mean Girls. Sorry, I'm dating myself again.
Wow.
Krista Marie says, I knew who Henry Cavill was because I had seen, what is it? I Capture the Castle. Hmm.
Oh, interesting. I never
Okay.
saw that one. I saw Immortals, but
I did see Immortals.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. That was a good Greek mythology film, too.
yeah,
That was like a more dark, like violent, because it was from the same people who made 300. So,
with ties to Zack Snyder. Look at that.
mm, see that. I guess Henry was destined to play this role. Isn't that
Yep.
funny? Steph L chimes in. She has a question for you. She says, "Are you a fan of Marvel as well as the DC universe, or are you strictly a DC guy?"
I mean, I like quite a few of the Marvel movies too. I'm not as excited about it, but yeah, I mean, I was a huge Captain America fan of those, Chris Evans, and in those movies, and the like, Captain America: The Winter Soldier is probably my favorite Marvel film out of all of them, including Infinity War and Endgame, which are closely behind that. But yeah, I mean, my wife is such a big fan of the first Captain America movie, and like I really like the second one, and the third one, Civil War, is also good. And it's crazy how that came out right around the same time as BBS, and that how that all transpired. But yeah, I mean, I'm a fan. I mean, they did. I mean, to do what they did is just unprecedented, and is I mean, you have to respect everything that Kevin Feige uh, and everybody over there accomplished in terms of all the like the Avengers films and building a cinematic universe in a way that is so cohesive and appealing to kids and adults, and made tons of money. And yeah, it became formulaic. I will say that, and I think they have run into some issues more recently. I think they, uh, especially everything after Endgame, has been kind of tough sledding for them. I think they've kind of lost their path a little bit. They kind of have to get back on track, and I think they expanded a little too much with the TV shows, to the point where if you like before, like yeah, you had to watch a bunch of movies, but it was doable. But now you got to watch 5 TV shows and 4 movies and all these different characters to understand what's going on in this next movie, and so it becomes a little tough and a little bit hard to follow at that point. But yeah, I mean, like my phone case is Captain America, so I mean, I'm a big fan of Captain America.
Well, I'm with you to the end of the line, pal. See, there you go.
Hey,
There's a line for you right
hey,
there. So, and I agree with what you're saying because the first 10 or so years of that franchise, we're talking about the MCU here for just a bit. When they ended with Endgame, that to me was, and I knew there were more characters coming. I knew they were going to do stuff after Endgame because nothing ever stays secret for very long these days. It really doesn't. In the age of the internet, in the age of spoilers being dropped long before the movie is even released, long before the trailers even come out, it ruins the cinematic experience for me to a degree. But that's a whole other discussion that Daryn, myself, and many others could probably have on another show. Maybe Daryn will want to come back and discuss that. Who knows? But when Endgame ended, I'm thinking, okay, I'm good. My Marvel flavor is done. I'm finished. And then the shows were coming out, the movies were coming out, and I'm thinking, I don't know. I don't feel it anymore. I don't feel it anymore. I just don't feel a vibe to it. There's no vibe. There's no energy to it. And plus, they come out with a new movie like every 2 months now, or every 3 months. There's a new movie dropping. There's a new series dropping. And I feel like, and this is something I was thinking about earlier this week, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. I feel like to a certain degree, with we as an audience are being inundated with comic book based movies and TV series. I feel like there's a bit of a fatigue that's going on, and I feel like there's a bit of comic book movie or comic book TV series fatigue. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being, what's the word, paranoid? I don't know. But Daryn, that's my question to you. Do you feel like we're at a time now in 2023 where we've had all these movies, all these TV shows, and we're getting even more as we're moving on into the future? Well, once the situation that's going on with WGA and the SAG-AFTRA situation gets remedied, do you feel like there's comic book movie or TV series or superhero fatigue, or are we just being paranoid here?
Yes, I don't think you're being paranoid. I think we have reached a point where there's so many different there's so much different content coming out now, and it feels like it's like you said, it's kind of lost its magic. It's lost what made it special a little bit. And even a movie that would be, 10 years ago would have been a solid movie that would have made 700 million at the box office. I think nowadays it's just not. I don't know. I think people are getting worn out partially because of like Marvel was a big deal and what they did at the time was such a revolutionary thing and people were excited about it and they loved the people in those roles and they were great and they had great uh, actors in those main character roles. Look at Black Panther, right? The late Chadwick Boseman, God rest his soul, and Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr. I mean, you go down the list, right? They did such a great job with that now, especially now that some of those actors are on to different things, right? Because of what happened in some of those movies, that I feel like maybe part of it was the actors in those roles is what drew some of them in, and now that even with Spider-Man, now that we've already had No Way Home, you know, it kind of also feels like it's maybe run its course, and would I be up for more of that? Absolutely, but uh, I don't know. I think it's tough. I think there is some fatigue because it's crazy. Because back, you know, 6, 7 years ago, they were talking about this topic, and I was like, no, like this is the time for this. Like this is the peak, right? Even X Men. You had First Class and Days of Future Past, and um, like it was yes, and so it was just it was a revival of franchises and cinematic universes. Like the Harry Potter universe was brought back with Fantastic Beasts, and Star Wars was brought back with the sequel, with the Force Awakens. So I mean, it was a time to be a nerd and a movie fan. So back then I would say no, but now, I mean, a lot of those. I mean, yeah, and I think if you're not building towards something special and not like delivering on that promise that you're making to the audience, yeah, I think it can be the diminishing returns at a certain point.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. It's yeah, there's a lot going on, and we've had so much. It's just, oh my god, I can't. Whatever MCU's doing, I don't even know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what they're doing. There's a million things going on, but some more people here are chiming in the chat. And we thank you for being with us. Stephen Fisher goes on to say, I really like the more realistic take on Man of Steel. They accurately showed how the world would react if a godlike being came down to our planet. The government would be terrified, as would the character of Bruce Wayne.
I agree.
100%. That's why that movie is so flipping good. It's so underrated. And
Yes.
who is this? Reese
Reese.
Prakash? Reese. Okay. Oh, you're familiar with this individual.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
So this works for you. So this person says, out of all the DCEU villains, who has the best character development? We haven't seen a lot of Darkseid, but he does have the same potential of being at least on par with Thanos in terms of motivation. Daryn, your thoughts?
Out of all these two villains, who has the best character development? Oh, shout out Reese. That's a great question. So I'm gonna say Steppenwolf from Zack Snyder's Justice League, not the theatrical Justice League. Much different. Just forget about that theatrical version, okay? Zack's kind of Justice League is the real Justice League, and I think Steppenwolf is part of what makes that movie work. A hero can only be as great as its villain, and I mean, what a tremendous arc that he goes on in that movie because he's not just like the mustache twirling, I want to end the world, right? He wants to go home, and he has a real arc and a real purpose that's driving him. He wants to make up for his past mistake, just like Bruce Wayne is doing in this movie. The layers, right? Chris Terrio is so amazing at that with his writing. So I really like Steppenwolf. I love the way Kieran Hines delivered his performance in that movie, and the design of Steppenwolf, like the visual effects people shout out, and just incredible work. I think I'd be on Zach's team. I think that was DJ, but who did that, but who was in charge of that. But yeah, I mean, I say Steppenwolf. Zod obviously did an incredible job of Man of Steel. Michael Shannon killed it as that, and I think General Zod deserves a lot of credit, and as part of what makes that movie work really well too, because he is also trying to save his race. But I'm going to say Steppenwolf. I really enjoyed Steppenwolf.
Wow, I don't hear too many people defending that character, whether it's in the Joss Whedon version or the Zack. I don't hear too many people defending that one. So, Daryn, impressive, most impressive. Very good stuff, sir. And great question by Reese. And once again, those of you who are just joining us, thank you for being here. Don't forget to like and share this with everyone you know. We're here with Daryn Kirscht on this not episode, good lord, on this event known as Otherworldly Fundraising, benefiting One Simple Wish. If you wish to make a donation, the link is currently scrolling across the bottom of your screen. It's also located within the description below. Check it out. Every donation that goes over to One Simple Wish, including $10 and over, you are entered into a sweepstakes to win fabulous prizes. So you never know, you could win something incredibly awesome-tacular, or maybe something else to your liking. You never know, but every little bit helps, and we thank you all for your support of this fundraiser, as well as donating to One Simple Wish. And thank you once again to Daryn for being here. Do greatly appreciate it. Man, we've heard some good stuff from you, man. I'm digging it.
Thank you.
So let's see here. We've talked about XYZ, talked about how there's a bit of fatigue here and there. Maybe it'll eat, I don't know, maybe it'll ease up moving forward. Who knows? But let me ask you this. Is there a character out there that you want to see get a full screen or small screen treatment down the line that hasn't been featured yet? Whether it be on the DC side of the fence or the Marvel side of the fence. What do you think?
A character. Does it have to be a hero?
It could be anything. It could be a hero or a villain. Doesn't matter.
Interesting. Very interesting. Of somebody who hasn't had an appearance in a film or TV show. It's tough because there's been a lot. There's been a lot, and first thing that comes to my mind, obviously we just had Blue Beetle, right? We just had that movie just came out, and I mean, well, it's tough because I suppose the character I was thinking of was also in a TV show. I was going to say Booster Gold, but Booster Gold was in Smallville, so which is another great show. Shout out, and that's tough. I'll say this. I've always been fascinated with. I think there could be something really cool that could be done because, like, when you think of like Batman's rogue galleries, like you think of all the incredible villains that Batman has, right? And here can only be as great as this villain, right? And with Superman, one of my favorite fictional characters, you think Lex Luthor, right? You think General Zod, you know. But outside of that, it gets a little bit more like it's not quite as maybe as deep as some of the others, right? And I think it would be super interesting to, there's this character named the Conduit who is Kenny Braverman. And I think there could be something really fascinating to be explored with that character. Let's say, like for example, Superman 3, you have, Clark goes back for um, school reunion, right? First class reunion. And he runs into Lana Lang and is back in Smallville area, right? So, and even in Superman 4, you see him return to the Kent farm, even though Martha Kent has already passed away. So, which one of my favorite scenes actually from that movie, and I feel like there is something really fascinating to be explored with going back to Smallville and maybe and even into Metropolis as well with that character because one thing that with Superman his weakness is kryptonite, but his other weakness is magic. So I think there could be something new and exciting to be explored there.
All right, man. Throwing some interesting choices out there. And Superman 3 and 4, boy, those movies didn't happen. But they
Yeah.
did. They did. For some of us, it did. Listen, I'll be the first to admit, I watched Superman 4 as a kid. I thought it was cool. You look back on it now, ooh, not good. Not good. But Mariel Hemingway was cool. Just saying. If you know who Mariel Hemingway is, hi, Mariel. Good to see you. By the way, Krista Marie says, I'd like to see Booster Gold get another shot. Okay. Booster Gold, or she says, how about the character Vigilante?
That'd be cool. Yeah,
Hmm.
be down for that.
I'm not overly familiar with Vigilante.
I mean, I would also love to see
Definitely.
a full out JSA movie or TV show. I think that
Oh,
would be awesome. You know,
dude, what we got in Smallville, my number one favorite show. Hello.
absolutely.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
Dude, that JSA 2 hour movie, it's pretty good. For what
Yeah.
they had to do in the short amount of time they could do it in, and they had to put these sets together and everything. Like they had to put together the hall of like the table, the round table, and everything. Like all that stuff. I'm thinking to myself, we're literally going back in time and looking at DC's history here. That's a big deal. That's
Absolutely.
huge.
Yeah.
I thought that was great, man. Oh,
Same.
speaking of which, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this too, because they've been talking about this for a number of I think, what is it, years now? Are you okay with the possibility of actors Tom Welling, Michael Rosenbaum, and company reassembling the team and putting together a Smallville animated series to continue the show?
Yes. 100%. I mean, I was such a huge fan of that show too. I didn't mention that earlier, but I mean, I grew up, I wouldn't say I grew up with that show, but I caught it more towards the end of its run. But then I obviously I've gone back and watched it over multiple times, and my start in podcasting actually came from a friend of mine, Zach Moore, did Always Hold On to Smallville podcast, covering each and every episode of the show, and he was actually on Talkville. He got to meet and talk to Tom and Michael, and so I was such a big fan of that show. So I would love to see more, of course, and bring it back. If they decide to bring back some of the cast and um, Go and Millar, if they want to Goff and Millar, if they want to bring them back, that'd be awesome. I'm not sure it's going to happen because I haven't heard anything about it for a little while now, and especially if they're doing a reboot. Although Michael Rosenbaum is good friends with James Gunn, so I mean, I'll be down for it as long as they're up for it.
There you go. It's like the magic words, right? Always hold on to Smallville. That's what they
Yes,
always tell us. Isn't that right, Darren? That's what they always tell
absolutely.
us. Stephen Fisher has some interesting questions here. He chimes in. He says, would Tom Welling ever wear the suit? Not in real life, but he would do it in the animated show because then he doesn't have to worry about putting on a suit.
Oh, that's a good question.
Would Tom wear the suit?
Would he wear the suit? Would he act as Superman, even if it was just the voice if he was wearing the suit?
I think he
Hard.
would do it for voiceover purposes.
You think so?
Yeah, I think he would do it because then he doesn't have to worry about like putting on an actual, live action costume. He can just be himself. He can be Clark. He can just do it, as the character. Yes, even though the character is going to be wearing a suit within the animated form, but I think he could do it. I don't think Tom is against having the suit on in that series.
Hmm. That'd be cool. It'd be awesome. I don't know if it, I would know. I don't know. I still don't know if he'd be up for it, but
Hmm,
I would. I think we would all like to see that.
I
You
would love
know.
to see it.
So I mean,
Yeah.
I would like for that to happen. It's also funny too because Justin Hartley, who was the Green Arrow from that show,
Oh yeah.
he actually there was a recent animated project. I don't know if it was a movie or whatnot, but he actually did the voice of Superman
Oh,
for
oh,
that.
that's
Mhm.
right. He did. Yeah. I forget. He did it in a few animated a movie or two, right? Animated movie.
Yeah, and I think it was just recently,
Yeah.
just in the last like year or two. I think.
I think one or two of those movies. I don't know. We gotta ask somebody about that. And by the way, I have been handed a note from our producers stating that we are currently at $585 for our fundraising efforts. So thank you to everyone, every single one of you, who have donated to the cause for Otherworldly Fundraising benefiting One Simple Wish. Once again, the link is located in the description below. It's currently scrolling across the bottom of your screen. Check it out. Lots of wonderful things going on, and we appreciate each and every single one of you for donating because, as a wise person once said, every little bit helps. I'm just saying. Let's see here. Reese is back. He says, I'm also on board with Booster Gold getting the spotlight at some point, and with Vigilante possibly getting a spin-off / origin story. The more I'm hearing about this Vigilante character, the more I'm curious. Maybe I need to do some reading. I don't know. Does anyone have a comic book I should read that centers around the character of Vigilante? Let me know in the chat.
Yes, let us know.
Please do, because I'm all for, like Biff Tannen says, you know your history. Very good. Sorry, that's another reference there for you. By the way, Steven says Justin Hartley played Aquaman in the one-off spin-off show that was filmed as a pilot, but it never went anywhere. Yes, it's on the Blu-ray set. I think it's on the complete series DVD set of Smallville. If you want to go back and watch it, it's there. There's a tape. There's a special feature of it there. I think you could probably find it somewhere else. I'm not condoning that activity, but if you want to find it, I'm just saying, Darren, it's out there.
It's out there.
It's out there. That's all I'm gonna.
Just buy the big DVD Blu-ray box set and just watch Smallville and then watch that. Best of both worlds.
Yeah, dude, I bought the Blu-ray set like right as it came out. I think I don't know if I remember if I pre-ordered it or like the week it came out. I ordered it online from Best Buy and it got shipped to my house. I'm like, yep, that's what I need. I want all my 10 seasons on Blu-ray, baby. I want it all. I want the
Absolutely.
whole package. Ooh, yeah. Let's see here. Trying to think. What else was I handed? I was handed another note here. Oh, yes. Anonymous donors during the course of this weekend, they can't win the sweepstakes because we need to be able to contact you. So if you're able to give us an email address, your social media handle when you're donating, please do, because otherwise you'll be ineligible, I think is the word, to win the fabulous prizes in our sweepstakes. So please give us your contact information if you make a donation that's $10 or more, and we'll be sure to get those prizes out to you if you are chosen as the winner of potential prizes. So there you go. I feel like I'm on a game show for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know. I got a vibe going here, Daryn. I don't know. You're doing something to me over here.
Come on
Steve,
down.
I know, right? The
Yeah.
Circle Showdown. Anyway, Stephen Fisher says, I got the Aquaman film from iTunes way back when. Woo! iTunes. Whew. Haven't heard that name in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you even use iTunes anymore, Daryn? I don't. I don't really care.
I mean, for music, I guess, but not for like watching stuff,
Jeez, man, that's going back. Whew. It is Flashback Friday for a reason. Oh, here's one for you. Favorite episode of Smallville? What is it?
Oh boy.
Come on, baby. Let's do it. You got your boy running the podcast. Always hold on to Smallville. Now I got to hear it from you. What's your favorite episode?
Yeah. So, I look, my favorite episode is not the best episode. I'll put it that way. Uh, I would say when I think of the best episodes, I think of Justice from season 6, when we got to see a lot of the Justice League characters, like Green Arrow and Cyborg and whatnot, and Aquaman. So I mean, that was a really cool episode. Stephen S. Knight did that. But and obviously, like you mentioned, in season 8 we had, or was it season 8 or season 9, that we had the JSA 2-part episode back to back, and then there's been some excellent, amazing episodes over the years. I think earlier Smallville was probably more my jam. I think was maybe the stronger part of Smallville, and my favorite episode comes from season 3, which I mean I would say is one of the best seasons of the show, and it is an episode it was season 3, episode 4, and I'm just gonna pull it up here quick so I can.
Is that the one called Relic? Is that Relic?
No, it's not Relic. I think Relic might have been the flashback.
Well, that is a flashback / flash forward episode, but
yeah,
episode 4.
My favorite episode is called Slumber.
Oh, the nightmare sequences. Yeah.
Yeah, where he's kind of I don't know. It was directed by Terrence O'Hara, who recently passed away, unfortunately. But yeah, it was kind of about him, and there was this new neighbor, because Lana used to be the neighbor next door, right? The girl next door, that trope, right? And so what happens is there's this new girl living next door, this family, and she's like he keeps falling asleep. He's so tired he keeps falling asleep, and she comes into his dreams and is like, "Help me!" And there's this like phantom that like keeps taking her, and he's trying to figure out what's going on, and he's trying not to fall asleep, so he's super tired. But it's a really fascinating, interesting episode that I've always kind of found the surreal to be something that it's always been inspiring and something that's resonated with me. So for whatever reason, it's always been my favorite. And of course, like the classic ending, in the barn, in the loft, which is one of the coolest sets ever. When he's, she's like, "We should hang out this weekend. What do you want to do?" And he's like, "Well, I don't want to do skinny dipping. Like, I don't think that's a good idea." And she's like, "Who said anything about skinny dipping?" And she's like, "Maybe in your dreams," which is like they really send it home. So,
wow. Yeah. Slumber. Okay, because they just did the commentary for that with Talkville a few weeks ago.
I still have to watch that. Yeah.
Oh, you gotta go back, dude. Talkville's got some good stuff going on there, man. I gotta tell you, it's a really great podcast. Feel free to check that out if you're just joining us. Talkville is a podcast that's hosted by Tom Welling, Michael Rosenbaum. They go back They rewatch all 218 episodes of the series they starred in, known as Smallville, and you can ask them questions. You can share your thoughts about it on social media. They do have social media accounts for that. It's Talkville Podcast or Talkville Pod. So check that out when you have a chance. For me, more people are chiming in here on this conversation here. They are sharing with us what their favorite episodes of Smallville are. I want to get to those here. Krista Marie says Memoria is my favorite Smallville episode, followed by the Dukes of Hazzard episode.
Oh, sure.
With
Awesome. Very
Tom
cool.
Wopat and John Schneider. That's it.
Yes.
Thank you. Just trying
Very
to figure that one out. Stephen Fisher says, I enjoyed the Christmas Elseworlds-like episode when Lex was a good guy. Kristen corrects him. It's Lexmas.
Lexmas. Yes.
Lexmas.
Great stuff. Homecoming is a great episode in season 10.
Oh, yeah. That's a great one. Love that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great one. Let's see. Stephen Fisher says, yes, that is correct. And then let's see. Helen Bear. But that's an interesting username if I ever heard one. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Hope the fundraising goal is surpassed today. It could be. But with your help, as well as the person who's watching or listening to this right now, with your help, we can do it. We can do it. I'm just saying. So please check out the link in the description. Check out the link currently scrolling across the bottom of your screen right now. And don't forget to like and share this with everyone you know. We're here with Daryn Kirscht, best-selling writer, an incredible fan that I would definitely want to hang out with on a regular basis talking about Man of Steel. We talked about his book earlier, the Snyderverse Saga, which is really, really good stuff. So make sure you check that out. We'll talk more about that here in a moment. Also, Stephen Fisher chimes in. He says... are the rewatch podcasts on hold right now with the strike? Steven, some of them are taking a break. Some of them are still continuing to air episodes. So it's a bit of a mixed bag, right? It's some people are taking a break in response to the strike. Some people are continuing on with episodes, whatever may be happening right now. So, I mean, Talkville's still going. So, which is good for me because as a Smallville fan, as Daryn and I are big Smallville fans, that helps us. Isn't that right, Daryn?
Absolutely.
I'm just throwing that out there as a for instance. I mean, hey, there's some good stuff going on right now in this dark, crazy world that we're living in. Hey, I'm just saying. So for me, my favorite episode, it goes back to where I started, Daryn. I started watching in season 5. And I started watching the 100th episode, Reckoning.
That's a big episode.
That is a huge, monumental episode in the Clark Kent mythology, within the DC mythology. If you don't know what I'm talking about, watch that episode. You will be bawling your eyes out by the end of it. And that episode was the first episode of the show I ever saw. And from that point on, Daryn, respectively, I was not only a fan of Smallville, but I became an even bigger fan of Superman because of that episode.
I mean, there's no going back after that one.
No. There absolutely is not. And real quick, true story here for you. Daryn, 6 weeks prior to that episode airing, I lost my dad, unfortunately, suddenly. And because of that episode, I was crying like crazy. And also that episode, as well as the episode that followed, known as Vengeance, episode 13, if you remember that one, helped me get through that dark period of my life. So I got to give it up to the cast and crew of Smallville. Thank you for that wonderful series, and thank you for getting me through a dark period. So
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that. But you know what? It's a great show, and if you haven't seen it before, if you've never even heard of Smallville, if you don't know anything about this character of Clark Kent and Superman, Smallville's a great starting point.
Yes.
I would say. I mean, even going back to the pilot, dude, that pilot is solid.
Very much so. Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, and the song that plays at the end by who is
Lifehouse,
it?
right?
Lifehouse.
Yeah.
Dude, that song, talk that talk, George, hits me every time. Hits me.
Great stuff.
God, it gets you in the feels.
Great music. Great music from that show, too.
Oh, my gosh, man. I was introduced to like a couple of bands during that period of time, like Three Doors Down and, Finger 11. You remember Finger 11? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What's the name of the song that we heard during that one episode? Remember the episode where he's dating the blonde who can teleport? She's kind of obsessive.
Oh, Alicia.
Alicia, yes. Oh, by the way, Sarah Carter, you're great. You're wonderful. I wish you nothing but success with your career moving forward. I mean, she's killed it ever since she left Smallville. I mean, she did Falling Skies. She did a bunch of other stuff. She did Shark with James Woods. If you're not familiar with Shark, Daryn, watch that show. Sarah Carter was a lawyer on that show. You might want to check that out.
Yeah.
That episode featured the song One Thing by Finger 11. Do you remember that?
I do.
Would you trade it all for one thing? It's just hit you right there. I'm just saying. And hey, you know what? Alicia wasn't all that bad.
No.
She was like an anti-hero. She did some stuff that wasn't cool, like abuse, like, I don't know, maybe hitting her parents. I don't know, but it could have worked if she didn't use the red K on Clark. I think it could have worked.
And if I'm being honest, I think some of my favorite parts of Smallville are the parts that deviate from the standard mythology. Some of the original things they do, like
Really.
Alicia, for example, um, and then like obviously the extended relationship with Lana, and sometimes, but yeah, I think there was a lot of some of the best stuff was some of the stuff that I think kind of deviates that they can kind of explore new territory with.
Gotcha. Yeah, really good episodes there, man. Oh
Yeah,
gosh. Well, you know what, Daryn, this has been a great hour talking about the Snyderverse, talking about the things that could have been, the things that should have happened, the shoulda, coulda, wouldas of the world. And it's been great talking with you and getting to know you better and hearing about your incredible book and the things that you've been doing and the fact that you're a Smallville fan. We're best friends for life, man. Listen, if you want to come on set for Otherworldly Fundraising in the future, if you want to come on set for some of the other stuff that I do, you and I will I'll email you some stuff and we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it in
cool,
the behind the scenes area of the studio. But I want to take
awesome.
this opportunity to say thank you, Daryn, for being here. Where can the person watching or listening to this follow you on social media and purchase a copy of your book? What do you got?
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. It's been a blast. Absolutely. So, if you're looking to find me online, the best places are probably, I would say Twitter/X or Vero, which would be at Daryn_Kirscht. You can also find the book on Amazon. There's also Twitter accounts and on Facebook pages for the book, and also for my podcast, Round Two, the film sequel, where we talk about the second movie in a franchise. So, yeah, that'd be the best place to find me. Otherwise, for anything business related, or if you want to see what we have going on in the future, you can always check out my website, www.oakvalleymediallc.com.
More phenomenal, man. Thank you so much for being here, Daryn. We greatly appreciate it. We will catch you later, and thank you for being a part of Otherworldly Fundraising. We'll be in touch, okay?
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Thanks for being here. Do greatly appreciate it. Once again, my name is Ryan of Nerd Culture. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at RyanRPM5, all the other wonderful things that I'm doing. Once again, this is Otherworldly Fundraising. Our fundraising efforts are benefiting one simple wish. Link to donate is located within the description.